1876, Abilene, Kansas. The gunshot that killed her father still echoed in Caroline Prescott's mind 3 days later, as she stood in the doorway of Prescott Bank, staring at the blood-stained floorboards no amount of scrubbing could erase. 26 years old, alone, and now the owner of a bank in a town that wanted her gone. The December wind cut through her burgundy wool dress like a knife, but she refused to shiver, refused to show weakness. Her father had taught her that much before someone put a bullet in his back. "Miss Prescott." The voice made her turn. Josiah Crowley stood on the boardwalk, his expensive suit and gold watch chain gleaming in the weak winter sunlight. Handsome, respected, wealthy. Everything a proper suitor should be. "I heard about your father. Terrible tragedy. Simply terrible." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Crowley." She kept her voice steady, professional, the way her father had taught her to handle customers, even the ones who made her skin crawl. "I want you to know, my offer still stands." He stepped closer, too close. She smelled whiskey and cologne. "Marry me, Caroline. Let me take care of you. A woman shouldn't have to run a bank alone. It's not proper. I appreciate your concern, but I'm quite capable of managing my father's business." "Your father's business?" His voice hardened. "That's the problem, isn't it? It should be mine. We had an agreement." "You had an agreement with my father about a loan, which he refused because your collateral was insufficient. That agreement died with him. Everything of your father's should have been mine." His hand shot out, gripping her wrist. "Including you. Let go." She didn't raise her voice. Didn't need to. Her other hand had already moved to the derringer hidden in her skirt pocket. He saw the movement and released her, but his eyes promised retribution. "You'll regret this, Caroline. This town doesn't take kindly to uppity women who don't know their place. Your father protected you. Who's going to protect you now?" He walked away, leaving her alone in the cold. That night, she couldn't sleep. The bank sat below her small apartment, and every creak of the building made her reach for the derringer under her pillow. Her father's ledgers lay spread across her kitchen table, and the more she read, the worse it got. He'd been investigating something. Notes in the margins, circled names, question marks beside large deposits. And one name appeared over and over: Josiah Crowley. The next morning brought more trouble. She opened the bank at 8, just like always. But no customers came. The street outside stayed empty except for the occasional passerby who deliberately looked away when she met their eyes. By noon, she understood. Someone had warned the town away from her. Someone powerful. The door opened at 2 o'clock. A stranger walked in, and Caroline's hand immediately went to the shotgun beneath the counter. He was tall, lean, dangerous looking. Dark stubble covered his jaw, and his eyes were the color of winter sky. He wore a black duster coat that had seen better days, and his gun belt rode low on his hips, with the ease of a man who knew how to use it. "Bank's open," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "But if you're here to rob it, I should warn you I'm an excellent shot." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Not here to rob you, ma'am. Here about the job." "What job?" "The one you're about to offer me." He pushed a wanted poster across the counter. His own face stared back at her. Cole Garrett, wanted for murder and robbery. $500 reward. Her finger tightened on the shotgun trigger. "Before you shoot," he said calmly, "you should know I didn't do what they're accusing me of. And you should know that Josiah Crowley is the one who framed me." That got her attention. Why would he do that? Because I was a witness. I saw him shoot your father. The world tilted. Caroline gripped the counter to steady herself, her breath coming fast. "You're lying." "Am I?" His blue-gray eyes held hers. "Your father came to me a week before he died. Said he was investigating Crowley for fraud and land theft. Said Crowley had been stealing from half the ranchers in the county through fake loans and foreclosures. Your father had proof. He was going to expose him. If you're telling the truth, why didn't you go to the sheriff?" His laugh was bitter. "The sheriff is on Crowley's payroll. Half the town is. That's why no one came to your bank today. He owns them." She studied him. Every instinct her father had taught her about reading people said this man was telling the truth. Or at least, he believed he was. "Even if I believed you, why are you here?" "Because Crowley's not done. He wants the bank, which means he wants you gone. And I made a promise to your father that I'd keep you safe if anything happened to him." He leaned on the counter, his voice dropping. "I keep my promises, Miss Prescott, even when they're inconvenient. I don't need protection from an outlaw." "No?" He nodded toward the window. "Then who are those men?" She turned. 3 riders sat their horses across the street, watching the bank. She recognized one of them. Crowley's foreman. When she turned back, Cole Garrett had moved around the counter. He stood beside her now, close enough that she could smell leather and winter air on his coat. "They're waiting for dark," he said quietly. "Waiting for you to be alone and vulnerable. Then they'll come. They'll make it look like a robbery. And tomorrow, Josiah Crowley will comfort the whole town about another tragedy. And he'll take over this bank just like he planned." Her mind raced. She could go to the law, but if the sheriff was corrupt, that would only make things worse. She could run, but that meant abandoning everything her father built, everything he died for. Or she could trust a wanted outlaw who claimed to be innocent. "What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Garrett?" "I'm proposing you hire me. Publicly. Give me a job at the bank as a guard. It'll give me a reason to be here, and it'll make Crowley think twice about making a move. And what's in it for you? A chance to clear my name. Your father had evidence against Crowley. If we can find it and get it to someone who will listen, I walk away a free man. You keep your bank. Crowley goes to prison where he belongs." It was insane. Reckless. Everything her father would have warned her against. But her father was dead. And she was out of options. "How do I know you won't rob me the first chance you get?" "You don't." His honesty surprised her. "But I'm a man of my word, Miss Prescott. And I gave my word to your father. That has to be enough." She made her decision. $20 a week, plus room and board in the apartment above the bank. You work as a guard during the day, and you help me go through my father's records at night. We find the evidence, we expose Crowley, and then you leave. Deal. He extended his hand. She took it. His grip was firm, calloused, warm despite the cold. And when their eyes met, something passed between them. Recognition. Maybe. Or just the understanding of 2 people with their backs against the wall, choosing to fight instead of run. "One more thing," she said. If you betray me, I will shoot you myself. And I never miss. That ghost of a smile returned. Fair enough, boss. The men across the street watched as Cole Garrett carried his saddlebags into the bank. Watched as Caroline locked the door and pulled the shades. And when darkness fell and they finally rode away, she knew it was only temporary. The war had just begun. That first night, they worked in her small apartment above the bank. Caroline spread her father's ledgers across the kitchen table, while Cole checked every window, every door, every possible entry point. "You're being paranoid," she said, not looking up from the columns of numbers. "I'm being careful. There's a difference." He finished his inspection and pulled off his coat, revealing a dark shirt and suspenders beneath. His gun belt stayed on. "Find anything?" "Maybe." She pointed to a series of entries. "My father made notes here about property transfers. Ranchers losing their land to foreclosure, Crowley buying it up for pennies on the dollar. But the dates don't match the loan records." Cole leaned over her shoulder to look. He smelled like leather and something else. Something clean despite days on the trail. She tried to ignore it. "He was backdating the loans," Cole said, "making it look like the ranchers owed more than they did, calling in loans early. Classic fraud. You know a lot about banking for an outlaw. I know a lot about being cheated. My family lost our ranch the same way when I was 16. Different man, same scheme." His voice carried old pain. "That's why I believed your father when he came to me. I recognized the pattern." "What happened to your family?" "They're gone. My father drank himself to death. My mother died of a broken heart a year later. I was left with nothing." He straightened. "That's when I became a drifter. Took odd jobs. Got good with a gun because I had to be. But I never stole. And I sure as hell never killed anyone who didn't need killing." "Then how did you end up wanted?" "Crowley needed me gone. I was asking too many questions, getting too close. So he paid some men to stage a robbery and shoot a deputy. Left evidence pointing to me. By the time I knew what happened, the law was already looking for me." His jaw clenched. "I've been running for 3 months." Caroline studied him in the lamplight. He looked tired. Worn down by running, by injustice, by a world that had taken everything from him. She understood that feeling. "We should sleep," she said finally. "We can look more tomorrow." "Where do you want me?" "There's a spare room. My father used it when he worked late." She stood, suddenly aware of how small the apartment felt with him in it. How his presence filled the space in a way that made her both nervous and strangely safe. "It's not much. Better than sleeping in a barn, which is where I've been for the past week." He picked up his saddlebags. "Thank you, Miss Prescott, for taking a chance on me. Call me Caroline. If we're going to fight Crowley together, we might as well be on a first-name basis." Caroline. The way he said her name did something strange to her stomach. "Then you should call me Cole." That night, she lay in her bed and listened to the sounds of someone else in the apartment. Footsteps. Running water. The creak of bed springs. For the first time since her father died, she wasn't alone. It should have frightened her. Instead, she slept better than she had in days. Morning brought a surprise. When Caroline opened the bank, customers were waiting. Not many, but enough. ranch wives who'd known her father, a few cowboys who needed to send money home, and they all noticed Cole standing behind her, armed and watchful. Word spread fast. By afternoon, more people came, some out of curiosity, some because they'd liked her father and felt guilty for abandoning her, and some because a pretty woman with a dangerous man protecting her was simply too interesting to ignore. Crowley showed up at closing time. "I see you've hired help," he said, his eyes on Cole with undisguised hatred. "Interesting choice." "Mr. Garrett comes highly recommended," Caroline said coolly, "and I needed additional security given recent events." "Recent events?" Crowley's smile was cold. "You mean your father's unfortunate death, which, I might add, remains unsolved. The sheriff believes it was a robbery gone wrong." "The sheriff believes what you tell him to believe." The mask slipped for just a moment. Rage flashed in Crowley's eyes before he controlled it. "Careful, Caroline. Accusations like that could be considered slander." "Truth isn't slander, Josiah." She deliberately used his first name, making it an insult. "And the truth always comes out eventually." He turned to Cole. "I know you. You're that outlaw, the one who killed Deputy Matthews." "I didn't kill anyone," Cole said quietly. But his hand had moved to his gun. "But I'm happy to start if you give me a reason." For a moment, Caroline thought Crowley would draw. The tension stretched tight as a wire between the two men. Then, Crowley stepped back, his smile returning. "No need for violence. I'm just looking out for Caroline's best interests. After all, we're going to be married soon." "No, we're not," Caroline said. "We'll see." He tipped his hat. "Good evening, Miss Prescott. Garrett." He said the name like a curse. When he was gone, Caroline released the breath she'd been holding. "He's going to move against us soon." "I know." Cole locked the door and pulled the shades. "Which is why we need to find that evidence tonight." They worked until midnight, going through every ledger, every note, every scrap of paper her father had left. And finally, in a hidden compartment of his desk, Caroline found it. A small leather journal. Her father's handwriting filled every page. Names, dates, property descriptions, and detailed accounts of how Josiah Crowley had systematically stolen land from over 20 families in the past 5 years. "This is it," she whispered. "This proves everything." Cole read over her shoulder. "It's enough to hang him, if we can get it to the right people. The territorial judge is in Dodge City. If we can get this to him, that's 3 days' ride in good weather. In winter, maybe 5. Cole looked out the window at the snow starting to fall. "And Crowley will know the moment we leave. He'll send men after us. Then we'll have to be faster than his men." He turned to her. "You understand what you're risking? If we fail, he'll kill us both. If we don't try, he wins. My father dies for nothing. You stay a wanted man. And Crowley keeps destroying lives." She met his eyes. "I'm not letting that happen." Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or something deeper. "You're braver than you look." "I'm terrified," she admitted. "But I'm more angry than scared. And anger is useful." "Yes, it is." He moved closer, and in the lamplight, she could see the shadow of stubble on his jaw, the intensity in his blue-gray eyes. "We leave tomorrow night. Pack light, dress warm, and bring that Derringer of yours. We're going to need every advantage we can get." The next day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Caroline served customers with a smile, while her mind raced with plans. Cole stood sentinel, watching the street, counting the men who watched them back. At noon, a boy delivered a message. Caroline's hands shook as she read it. "What does it say?" Cole asked. "It's from Crowley. He's invited me to dinner tonight at his house. Says he wants to discuss our future." She looked up. "He's making his move. You're not going." "I have to. If I refuse, he'll know something's wrong. We need him to think everything is normal until we're ready to leave." "Absolutely not. It's too dangerous." "Cole." She touched his arm, feeling the tension in his muscles. "I can handle Josiah Crowley. I've been handling him for months. You'll be nearby. If anything goes wrong, you'll know." He clearly hated it, but he finally nodded. "I'll be outside the whole time. Any sign of trouble, any sign at all, I'm coming in." That evening, Caroline dressed in her finest gown, a deep green silk that had been her mother's. She pinned up her hair, applied a touch of rouge to her pale cheeks, and looked at herself in the mirror. She looked like a lady going to dinner with a suitor. She felt like a soldier going to war. Crowley's house sat on the edge of town, a large 2-story building that spoke of wealth and power. He greeted her at the door with a smile that made her skin crawl. "Caroline, you look beautiful. Thank you for the invitation, Josiah." She let him take her coat, pretending not to notice how his hands lingered. Dinner was elaborate. Roast beef, potatoes, wine. He talked about his plans for the town, for the bank, for their future together, as if her agreement was a foregone conclusion. "You can't keep running that bank alone," he said, refilling her wineglass. "It's not proper. People talk. Let them talk. And that outlaw you hired, that's caused quite a stir." His eyes hardened. "Some people think you've made a very poor choice. Mr. Garrett is an excellent employee. Mr. Garrett is a wanted criminal. The sheriff plans to arrest him any day now." "On what charges? False ones you manufactured?" His hand slammed down on the table, making her jump. The mask was gone completely now. "You're trying my patience, Caroline. I've been more than generous. I've given you time to grieve, time to come to your senses. But my patience has limits. I'm not marrying you, Josiah. Not today, not ever." He stood, moving around the table toward her. "You don't have a choice." She stood too, her hand moving to the derringer in her skirt pocket. "Yes, I do. Your father thought he had a choice too." The words hung in the air between them. "He was wrong. You killed him. I removed an obstacle, just like I'm going to remove your outlaw friend. And then you'll see reason. Because you'll have no one else to turn to." The door burst open. Cole stood there, gun drawn, his face carved from stone. "Step away from her." Crowley laughed. "You're trespassing, Garrett. That's a crime." "Sheriff!" Men poured in from the back rooms. Crowley's hired guns, 6 of them, all armed. They were trapped. Cole's mind raced, calculating odds, angles, chances. 6 against 1. Well, 6 against 2, if Caroline could shoot as well as she claimed. But they were surrounded, outgunned, and exactly where Crowley wanted them. "Put down the gun, Garrett," Crowley said, "or my men will cut you down where you stand." And then what will protect your little boss? Caroline's hand was in her pocket now, Cole knew. Probably gripping that derringer. But even if she got a shot off, it wouldn't be enough. I've got a better idea, Cole said. How about you tell your men to stand down, or I put a bullet in your head before they can fire. You won't, Crowley smiled. You're not a killer. That's your weakness, Garrett. You're too noble. Try me. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, Crowley made a mistake. He reached for Caroline. Cole's gun went off. The bullet passed so close to Crowley's head that it singed his hair. The man stumbled back, his face white with shock. Next one goes through your skull, Cole said coldly. Call off your dogs. Now. Stand down, Crowley said shakily. His men hesitated, but obeyed. But you're only delaying the inevitable. The sheriff is on his way. You'll hang for this. Not if we're gone. Cole grabbed Caroline's hand. Move. They ran. Out the back door, through the garden, into the snowy darkness. Behind them, shouts erupted. Gunfire cracked in the night. But they were already sprinting toward the livery stable where Cole had hidden their horses, already saddled and ready. Go, he shouted, boosting Caroline into her saddle. A bullet whined past his head. He returned fire, then swung onto his own horse. They rode hard into the storm. Snow fell thick and fast, covering their tracks almost as quickly as they made them. The temperature dropped, and the wind cut like knives. But they didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Behind them, torches bobbed in the darkness. Crowley's men, following. We need shelter, Caroline shouted over the wind. I know a place. Cole veered off the main trail, leading them into rougher country. The old line shack appeared out of the snow like a ghost. Abandoned, half collapsed. But it had 4 walls and most of a roof. Cole pulled the horses inside what had once been a small stable, then grabbed their saddlebags and pulled Caroline toward the shack. Inside was barely warmer than outside. Snow had drifted through gaps in the walls. But there was a fireplace, and Cole had the fire going within minutes. Caroline sank down beside it, shivering violently. Her green dress was soaked through, her hair plastered to her head. We made it. For now. Cole checked the windows. The storm had intensified. He couldn't see more than a few feet, which meant their pursuers couldn't either. The storm will cover our tracks, but we're stuck here until it passes. How long? Could be hours. Could be days. He pulled a blanket from his saddlebag and wrapped it around her shoulders. You need to get out of that wet dress. Turn around. He did, focusing on the fire while he heard rustling behind him. When he turned back, she'd changed into a dry shirt and pants from her bag. Her wet dress hung to dry. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders, dark and tangled. She looked younger without all the pins and propriety. More real. More beautiful. Your turn, she said. You're just as wet. He changed quickly, aware of her eyes on him, even though she was trying to be polite and look away. When he settled beside her by the fire, the space felt suddenly very small. Thank you, she said quietly, for coming for me. I told you I would. You could have left me there, taken the journal, and gone. No, I couldn't have. He met her eyes. I don't leave people behind. She studied his face in the firelight. "Tell me about your family. Your real story, not the quick version." So he did. He told her about his father, a good man broken by losing everything. About his mother, who'd loved her husband so much that when he died, she simply gave up. About being 16 and alone with nothing but anger and determination. "I swore I'd never let anyone take from me again," he said. "Never let anyone make me feel that powerless. And then Crowley framed me, and I was powerless all over again. Running, hiding, losing myself piece by piece. You're not powerless now. You're fighting back. We're fighting back." He smiled slightly. "Your father would be proud of you, Caroline. You're braver than half the men I know." "I'm not brave. I'm just stubborn." She pulled the blanket tighter. "I couldn't let him win. Couldn't let my father die for nothing." "It's not for nothing. We have the evidence. We'll get it to the judge. Crowley will pay for what he did. If we survive the night, we'll survive." He fed more wood to the fire. "Get some sleep. I'll keep watch." "Cole." Her hand touched his arm. "You need sleep too. I'll sleep when you're safe." But exhaustion caught up with both of them. As the storm raged outside and the fire burned low, they leaned against each other for warmth. And somewhere in the dark hours before dawn, they both slipped into sleep. Cole woke to weak sunlight and the feeling of Caroline in his arms. She'd curled against his chest, her head on his shoulder, one hand resting over his heart. She was warm and soft and fit against him like she belonged there. For a moment, he let himself imagine a different life. One where he wasn't running, where she wasn't in danger, where they could have met as ordinary people and fallen in love without death and danger hanging over them. Then she stirred, her eyes opening. They were hazel, he realized. Green and gold and brown all mixed together. And when she looked up at him, still half asleep and vulnerable, he saw something in her gaze that made his breath catch. She felt it too, this connection between them. "The storm stopped," she whispered. "Yeah. He should move, should put distance between them." But he didn't want to. Neither did she. "We should go," she said, but she didn't move. "We should." He raised his hand, traced the line of her jaw with his fingers. Her skin was soft, warm. She leaned into his touch. "Cole, I know." He did know. This was complicated, dangerous. She was his employer. He was an outlaw. They had nothing in common except survival and a shared enemy. But when he kissed her, none of that mattered. Her lips were soft, tentative at first, then increasingly sure. Her hands slid up to his neck, fingers threading through his hair. He pulled her closer, deepening the kiss, tasting her, feeling her respond. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, her eyes were wide. "We can't," she whispered. "I know. This is insane. I know. But I don't want to stop." "Neither do I." He kissed her again, slower this time. Thorough. Pouring everything he couldn't say into the touch of his lips on hers, the way his hands cradled her face like she was something precious. When they finally pulled apart, reality crashed back. They had to move, had to get to Dodge City, had to finish this. But something had changed between them. and they both knew it. They rode out within the hour, following a creek bed that would hide their tracks. The sun climbed higher, melting the snow in patches, but the air stayed bitter cold. Caroline's fingers felt numb even through her gloves. Cole kept them moving at a steady pace, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon. Every shadow, every distant sound made him tense. But no riders appeared. The storm had bought them time. "How far to Dodge City?" Caroline asked as they stopped to rest the horses at midday. "Another day and a half, maybe 2. Depends on the weather." He handed her some jerky from his saddlebag. "And whether Crowley figures out where we're going." "He will. It's the only place that makes sense." She chewed the tough meat, grateful for anything warm in her stomach. "He'll send men ahead to cut us off." "Probably." Cole studied the trail ahead. "Which is why we're not taking the main road." "Is there another way?" "Through the canyon. It's rough country, but it'll save us half a day, and Crowley's men won't expect it." They pushed on, following narrow trails that barely deserved the name. The landscape grew wilder, rockier. By the time the sun started to sink, they were deep in canyon country, surrounded by red stone walls that towered above them. "We'll camp here tonight," Cole said, guiding them into a small alcove sheltered from the wind. "No fire. Can't risk the smoke being seen." It was going to be a cold night. They ate a sparse meal of jerky and hardtack, then huddled together under both blankets as darkness fell. Caroline's teeth chattered, despite being pressed against Cole's warmth. "Tell me something," she said, trying to distract herself from the cold. "If we win, if we clear your name, what will you do?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. I've spent so long just surviving, I haven't thought about what comes after." "You could stay. In Abilene. Work at the bank legitimately." "Could I?" His voice held doubt. "Even if my name is cleared, people will remember. They'll always see me as an outlaw." "Some people will. Others won't." She shifted to look at him in the darkness. "I won't." "Caroline." He touched her face. "You deserve better than a drifter with a past. I deserve someone who keeps his promises. Someone brave enough to fight for what's right. Someone who makes me feel safe even when everything is falling apart." Her hand covered his. "That sounds like you to me." He kissed her then, deep and slow, and for a while, the cold didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the warmth of his mouth on hers, his arms around her, the feeling of being cherished and protected and wanted. When they finally pulled apart to breathe, he rested his forehead against hers. "If we make it through this, I'd like to stay. If you'll have me, I'll have you." They slept wrapped around each other, sharing body heat and something more. Hope, maybe. Or just the stubborn refusal to let circumstances destroy something good before it had a chance to grow. Dawn came cold and clear. They were back in the saddle before full light, pushing hard through the canyon. By noon, they'd reached the far end, emerging onto open prairie. Dodge City was visible in the distance. "We're almost there," Caroline said, relief flooding through her. "Don't celebrate yet." Cole's voice was tight. "Look." She followed his gaze. Riders. 4 of them, coming fast from the direction of town. Crowley's men? Has to be. He wheeled his horse. "Back into the canyon. We can lose them in the rocks." But more riders appeared behind them, cutting off their retreat. They were surrounded. Cole counted quickly. 8 men total. Not great odds, but he'd faced worse. "When I start shooting, you ride for town," he said. "Don't stop. Don't look back. Get to the judge. I'm not leaving you. Caroline, you have to. The journal is what matters. Getting it to the judge is all that matters." "You matter." Her voice broke. "I'm not losing you too." The riders closed in, forming a loose circle around them. Cole recognized the leader. Bull Thompson, Crowley's top enforcer. Mean as a snake and twice as deadly. Well, Bull called out. "Garrett, Miss Prescott, Mr. Crowley would like a word." "Tell Crowley he can go to hell," Cole said. Bull laughed. "That's the spirit. But I'm afraid we can't let you reach Dodge City. See, Mr. Crowley is real particular about his business staying private." "It's over, Bull. We have proof of everything. Even if you kill us, the truth is coming out. Maybe, but you'll be too dead to see it." Bull's hand moved toward his gun. Cole was faster. His first shot took Bull's hat clean off. His second hit the gun of the man next to him, sending it flying. Chaos erupted. Horses screamed and reared. Men scattered, reaching for weapons. "Go!" Cole shouted at Caroline. But she didn't run. Instead, she pulled her derringer and fired at the rider closing in on Cole's left. The man yelped and grabbed his shoulder, his horse bolting. Then they were riding, low over their horses' necks, bullets whining past them. Cole returned fire, buying them seconds, buying them distance. Caroline rode like she was born to it, guiding her mare with skill that surprised him. They made it 100 yards before a bullet found its mark. Caroline's horse went down hard, throwing her clear. She hit the frozen ground and didn't move. Cole's heart stopped. He wheeled his horse around, racing back to her even as bullets kicked up dirt around him. He hit the ground running, scooping her into his arms. She was conscious, gasping for breath, but alive. "I'm okay," she managed. "Just knocked the wind out." He pulled her onto his horse, swinging up behind her. They rode double now, slower, more vulnerable. The riders closed in. There was nowhere to run. Cole turned his horse, putting himself between Caroline and the approaching men. He had 6 shots left. 8 men. The math was bad. "When I tell you," he said quietly in her ear, "you slide off and run for that outcrop. Hide. When it's over, when they're gone, you get to Dodge City." "Cole, no. I love you." He said it simply, matter-of-factly. "I need you to know that. And I need you to live. I love you too. Which is why I'm not letting you die for me." She pulled the journal from inside her coat and held it up. "Looking for this?" Bull and his men stopped, eyeing the leather book. "We'll trade," Caroline called out. "The journal for our lives. You let us go, you get the evidence. Crowley wins." "Caroline, what are you doing?" Cole hissed. "Buying us time. Trust me." Bull considered it. "Toss it over. Not until you give your word. On your honor as a man. You let us ride away." Bull actually laughed. "Honor. That's rich. But fine. You have my word. Hand over the journal. You can go." Caroline threw the book. It landed in the dirt halfway between them and Bull. Bull dismounted and walked to retrieve it. The moment he bent down, Caroline kicked Cole's horse hard. The animal bolted, carrying them both away at a dead run. Behind them, Bull's roar of rage split the air. "After them!" "The journal," Cole said as they rode. "Caroline, we needed that." "That wasn't the journal." She pulled the real one from a hidden pocket in her coat. "That was my father's old accounting ledger. I swapped them this morning. He wanted to kiss her. Would've, if they weren't running for their lives. They had maybe a minute lead." Cole pushed the horse hard. But carrying double, they couldn't maintain this pace long. And Dodge City was still 2 miles away. They weren't going to make it. Then, over the thunder of hooves behind them, another sound. Hooves ahead. More riders. Caroline's heart sank. More of Crowley's men, cutting them off from town. But as the riders came into view, she saw the glint of badges. The Dodge City Marshal and 6 deputies, riding hard toward them. "Hold up," the marshal called. "We got word of trouble." Bull and his men saw the law coming and scattered, wheeling their horses away. But the deputies were fresh, their horses fast. Within minutes, all 8 of Crowley's men were surrounded and disarmed. Cole pulled his horse to a stop, breathing hard. Caroline slid down, her legs shaking, and he followed. "You two all right?" the marshal asked. "We are now," Caroline said. She held up the journal. "And we have evidence of murder and fraud that needs to reach the territorial judge immediately." The marshal took the journal, flipped through a few pages, and his expression hardened. "I know Judge Harrison. He's in town for a cattle dispute. Come on. You'll want to tell him this in person." 2 hours later, Caroline sat in the judge's chambers, Cole beside her, as Judge Harrison read through her father's journal. His face grew grimmer with each page. "This is damning," he said finally. "If even half of this is true, Josiah Crowley has committed enough crimes to hang 10 times over." "It's all true," Caroline said. "And there's more. Cole witnessed my father's murder." The judge turned to Cole. "You're the one wanted for that deputy's murder in Abilene." "Yes, sir. But I didn't do it. Crowley framed me to keep me quiet." "Can you prove that?" "I can testify to what I saw. And I can prove I wasn't in town when the deputy was shot. I have witnesses who'll swear I was 20 miles away." The judge considered this. "I'll send a wire to the territorial governor. We'll need to arrest Crowley and bring him in for trial. And we'll need to clear your name officially, Mr. Garrett. That will take time." "How much time?" Caroline asked. "A few weeks, maybe a month. But based on this evidence, I'm issuing a warrant for Crowley's arrest immediately. Marshal, send men to Abilene. Bring him in." As they left the judge's chambers, Caroline felt like she could finally breathe. It was over. They'd won. Outside, in the late afternoon sun, Cole took her hand. "You did it. Your father's legacy is safe." "We did it." She squeezed his fingers. "Together." "What now?" She smiled. "Now we go home, back to Abilene, and we wait for justice to catch up." But going home proved more complicated than expected. The marshal insisted they wait in Dodge City until Crowley was safely in custody. Too dangerous to return while he was still free and angry. So they waited. 3 days that felt like 3 years. The hotel gave them separate rooms, but Cole spent most nights in a chair outside Caroline's door, refusing to sleep until he knew she was safe. During the days, they walked the streets of Dodge City, ate in restaurants, tried to pretend they were just ordinary people. But they weren't ordinary. Every time their hands brushed, electricity sparked. Every time their eyes met, something deep and undeniable passed between them. They were circling each other, both wanting more but held back by propriety, by uncertainty, by the fact that technically Cole was still a wanted man. On the third evening, as they sat in the hotel restaurant finishing dinner, Caroline finally broke. "This is ridiculous," she said. "What is this? Us. Pretending we're not dying to be alone together. Pretending that kiss in the line shack didn't mean everything." Cole glanced around at the other diners, then leaned closer. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that I'm a grown woman. You're a grown man. And we've earned the right to stop pretending." His eyes darkened. "Caroline, my room. 1 hour. If you want to." "If I want to?" His voice was rough. "I've wanted to since the moment you pointed that shotgun at me in the bank." She smiled, heat flooding through her. "Then stop being a gentleman and come upstairs with me." "I can't. People will talk. Let them talk. I'm tired of living my life based on what other people think." He paid the bill, took her hand, and led her upstairs. At her door, he paused. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Inside her room, with the door locked and the lamp turned low, they came together with the urgency of people who'd nearly lost everything. His coat hit the floor. Her shawl followed. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling pins free until it cascaded down her back. "You're so beautiful," he murmured against her lips. "I've wanted to tell you that every day." "Then tell me now. Tell me everything." So he did. Between kisses that grew deeper, more desperate, he told her how he'd fallen for her courage, her stubbornness, the way she stood up to Crowley even when she was terrified, the way she'd trusted him when everyone else saw only an outlaw. And she told him how he made her feel safe, protected, seen, how his quiet strength had given her the courage to fight back, how she'd fallen in love with a man who kept his promises even when it cost him everything. They moved to the bed, sinking down together in a tangle of limbs and whispered words. His hands traced her curves through her dress, reverent and careful. She fumbled with the buttons of his shirt, wanting to feel his skin, his warmth, his heartbeat under her palms. "I love you," he said, and it sounded like a vow. "I love you too." When he kissed her this time, it was slow and thorough, a promise of everything to come. She felt safe in his arms, cherished, wanted for who she was, not what she represented. As the night deepened and the lamp burned low, they lay wrapped around each other, content and complete. Tomorrow would bring news of Crowley's arrest. The day after, maybe they could go home. But tonight was theirs alone. The knock on the door came at dawn. Cole was already awake, sitting up in bed with his gun drawn before Caroline had even processed the sound. She clutched the blanket to her chest, heart pounding. "Miss Prescott?" The marshal's voice. Need a word? Cole relaxed fractionally, but didn't lower the gun. Caroline quickly dressed while he pulled on his pants and shirt. When she opened the door, the marshal stood in the hallway looking grim. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" Caroline asked. "Crowley's gone. My men got to Abilene yesterday. He'd already fled, cleaned out his accounts, took his best men, and disappeared." Cole swore. "He knows we have the evidence. He's running." "That's what I figure. But here's the thing." The marshal looked uncomfortable. "He left something behind. A statement, signed and witnessed, claiming you two murdered your father, Miss Prescott, and framed him for it." "That's insane." Caroline's voice rose. "Cole witnessed my father's murder. He saw Crowley pull the trigger. I believe you. Judge Harrison believes you. But Crowley has friends in the territorial government. Important friends. They're calling for your arrest until this gets sorted out." "How long will that take?" Cole asked. "Weeks. Maybe months. You'll have to stay in Dodge City. If you try to leave, I'll have to bring you back in chains." After the marshal left, Caroline sank onto the bed, her hands shaking. "He's still winning. Even running. Even with all the evidence against him, he's still controlling our lives." Cole knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "He's not winning. He's desperate. And desperate men make mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind that get them caught." He stood, pacing. "Crowley fled with money and men. That means he needs to spend that money. And when he does, he'll leave a trail. How do we follow it from here?" "We don't. The law does. But we can help." He turned to her. "Your father's journal. It listed all of Crowley's properties, his accounts, his contacts. We use that to predict where he'll go." They spent the day with Judge Harrison, going through every entry in the journal, mapping out Crowley's known associates and properties. By evening, they had a list of likely hiding places. "He'll go south," Cole said, pointing to the map. "Mexico, probably. But he'll need to stop and resupply. My money's on this ranch here." He tapped a location in southern Kansas. One of his partners owns it. Remote, defensible, and right on the trail to the border. "I'll send deputies," the marshal said. "If he's there, we'll bring him in." But 2 days later, the deputies returned empty-handed. The ranch was abandoned. Crowley had been there. The evidence was clear, but he'd moved on. Caroline felt hope slipping away. Every day that passed, Crowley got further away, further from justice. And she and Cole remained trapped in Dodge City, unable to even return to Abilene. "We're going to spend the rest of our lives waiting," she said one night as they sat in her room. "Even if they catch him eventually, even if your name is cleared, everyone will always wonder. They'll always think maybe Crowley was telling the truth. Then we give them proof they can't ignore." "How?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. "I know where he's going. Really going. Not Mexico. Somewhere else." "Where?" "His brother has a ranch in Colorado Territory. They had a falling out years ago, but blood is blood. If Crowley is desperate enough, he'll go there." "How do you know about his brother?" "Your father told me. He'd tracked the connection. Thought maybe the brother was involved in the fraud too. But he died before he could investigate." Cole looked at her. "If we can get to Colorado, if we can find proof that Crowley is there, the law will have to act. The marshal won't let us leave. Then we don't ask permission. She stared at him. You're talking about running. About becoming fugitives for real. I'm talking about finishing what we started. About getting justice for your father. About clearing my name so we can actually have a life together. He took her hands. But I won't do it without you. If you want to stay here, wait it out legally. I'll stay too. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. Caroline thought about her father. About everything he'd sacrificed to do what was right. About how he'd never backed down from a fight, never let fear stop him from seeking justice. We go to Colorado, she said. Tonight. They left at midnight, slipping out of the hotel through a back window. Their horses were waiting at a stable on the edge of town, bought with the last of Caroline's money. They rode fast and quiet, putting distance between themselves and Dodge City before anyone noticed they were gone. By dawn, they were deep in open country, following trails that barely existed. Cole navigated by instinct and memory, taking them through terrain that most people avoided. It was slow going, but it kept them hidden. Tell me about this brother, Caroline said as they stopped to rest at midday. Thomas Crowley, younger than Josiah by 5 years. They started out as partners, running some kind of trading business. But Thomas had morals. When he figured out Josiah was cheating their customers, stealing from their partners, he walked away. Disowned his brother, built his own ranch, married a good woman, tried to live clean. Will he help us? I don't know. But he'll tell us if Josiah is there. And that's all we need. They reached the Colorado border on the third day. The landscape changed, becoming more rugged, more beautiful. Mountains loomed in the distance, snow-capped and majestic. It felt like a different world. Thomas Crowley's ranch sat in a valley between two ridges. As they approached, Caroline felt her pulse quicken. This was it, the end of the trail, one way or another. A man emerged from the ranch house as they rode up, older than Josiah, with more gray in his hair and more weathering in his face. But the resemblance was unmistakable. Help you folks? Thomas asked, his hand resting casually on the gun at his hip. Mr. Crowley, Caroline said, we're looking for your brother. His expression hardened. Don't have a brother. Yes, you do. And we think he's here. You'd be wrong. But something in his eyes said otherwise. Cole dismounted slowly, hands visible. My name is Cole Garrett. This is Caroline Prescott. Her father was murdered by Josiah. We have proof. But Josiah ran before the law could arrest him, and now we're the ones being accused. Thomas studied them. Why would I believe you? Because you know your brother, Caroline said. You know what he's capable of. And you know he'd come here if he was desperate enough, counting on blood loyalty to keep him safe. For a long moment, Thomas said nothing. Then, he sighed heavily. He got here 4 days ago, showed up with 5 men, all of them armed and mean-looking. Said he needed a place to lay low for a few weeks. Did you let him stay? No. I told him to get off my land. Told him I wanted nothing to do with him or his crimes. Thomas's jaw clenched. He laughed at me, said I owed him, said family was family whether I liked it or not. Then he pulled a gun on me in my own house and told me I'd shelter him or he'd burn me out. Where is he now? Cole asked. Gone hunting. Him and his men. They'll be back by nightfall. Caroline and Cole exchanged a look. They had hours to prepare. Will you help us? Caroline asked Thomas. Why should I? Because he's using you. Just like he's used everyone else. And because if we don't stop him here, he'll keep running, keep hurting people, and eventually he'll destroy you too. Thomas was quiet. Then he called toward the house. Martha! Got guests for supper. A woman appeared, small and tough-looking, with keen eyes that assessed Caroline and Cole in seconds. We taking a stand, Thomas? We are. Martha smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Good. I'm tired of those men tracking mud on my clean floors. They spent the afternoon preparing. Thomas knew his own land better than anyone, and he helped them choose positions. Cole would take the barn loft with a rifle. Caroline would be in the house with Martha, covering the front door. Thomas would wait in the stable, cutting off any escape route. They'll come in confident, Thomas said. They think I'm cowed. That'll be their mistake. As the sun started to sink, they heard horses. 5 riders, returning from their hunt with fresh meat. And in the lead, unmistakable even at a distance, was Josiah Crowley. Caroline's hands shook as she checked her derringer. This was it. No more running. No more waiting. Tonight, one way or another, it ended. Crowley and his men dismounted in the yard, laughing and joking. They had no idea anything was wrong, until Thomas stepped out of the stable with a shotgun. Evening, Josiah. Crowley froze. His eyes darted around, looking for the trap he could sense but couldn't see. Thomas, thought we had an understanding. We do. You leave. Now. Can't do that, brother. We just got comfortable. Then we have a problem. Crowley's smile was cold. You think you can take all 5 of us? You're not that good a shot, Thomas. He's not alone. Cole's voice came from the barn. Crowley spun, saw the rifle pointed at him from the loft. Garrett, should have known you'd show up like a bad penny. Crowley's hand moved toward his gun. You and the girl just can't leave well enough alone, can you? It's over, Crowley, Caroline called from the house. The law knows where you are. Judge Harrison has deputies on the way. You can surrender, or you can die. Your choice. You're bluffing. Nobody knows we're here. We sent a wire from the last town, Cole said. It was a lie, but a good one. They'll be here by morning. For a moment, Crowley seemed to consider it. Then his face twisted with rage. You've ruined everything. My business, my reputation, my life, all because your meddling father couldn't mind his own business. My father stood up to a thief and a murderer, Caroline said. And now you're going to pay for killing him. Crowley drew. Everything happened at once. Cole's rifle barked, hitting Crowley's gun hand. The revolver went flying. Thomas's shotgun boomed, and one of Crowley's men went down. Caroline fired her derringer. The small guns cracked sharp in the chaos. The remaining men scattered, seeking cover. Bullets flew in every direction. Caroline ducked behind the doorframe as wood splintered above her head. Martha was beside her, calmly reloading an old rifle. Always hated these men, Martha muttered. Tracking mud everywhere. Cole picked off another of Crowley's men from the loft. Thomas's shotgun roared again. In less than a minute, 3 of the 5 men were down, dead or wounded. The other 2 threw down their guns and raised their hands. Crowley was on his knees, clutching his bleeding hand, his face white with pain and fury. "You can't do this. I have rights. I demand a trial." "You'll get one," Cole said, climbing down from the loft. "Right after we drag you back to Kansas in chains." Thomas zip-tied Crowley's good hand to his wounded one, making him howl with pain. "That's for threatening my wife." They locked Crowley and his surviving men in Thomas's root cellar for the night. In the morning, they'd start the journey back to Dodge City. But for tonight, it was over. Caroline stood in the ranch yard as stars came out, breathing in the cold air, trying to process that she was still alive, that they'd won. Cole came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You all right?" "I shot a man. You protected yourself. Protected all of us." "I know. She turned in his arms. "I never thought I'd have to do something like that. You're stronger than you knew. Your father would be so proud." Tears filled her eyes. "I miss him." "I know." He held her while she cried, finally letting out all the grief and fear and rage she'd been holding in for weeks. When she was done, wrung out and exhausted, he kissed her forehead. "Let's go inside. Martha's making supper." That night, they ate with Thomas and Martha, sharing stories and plans. Thomas agreed to ride with them back to Kansas, to testify about what Crowley had done. With his testimony added to the journal and Cole's eyewitness account, there would be no question of Crowley's guilt. "What will you two do after?" Martha asked. "When this is all over?" Caroline looked at Cole. "Go home to Abilene, rebuild the bank, make it something my father would be proud of. And I'll be there to help," Cole said. "If the town will have me." "They will." Caroline squeezed his hand. "We'll make sure of it." The journey back to Kansas took a week. They had to move slowly with prisoners, and the weather turned cold again. But every mile brought them closer to justice, closer to home, closer to the life they were building together. They reached Dodge City on a gray afternoon. The marshal met them at the edge of town with a dozen deputies, taking custody of Crowley and his men. "Judge Harrison will want to see you both," the marshal said. "And Miss Prescott, I have good news. Your bank has been under protection while you were gone. Town voted to have a trustee manage it until you returned. Everything's just as you left it." Relief flooded through her. "Thank you." The trial happened quickly. With the journal, Cole's testimony, Thomas's testimony, and the evidence from the ranch, Crowley didn't stand a chance. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Guilty on all counts. Caroline sat in the courtroom as the judge sentenced Josiah Crowley to hang for murder and 20 years hard labor for fraud. She felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just a deep sense of closure. Her father could rest now. Justice had been served. Outside the courthouse, Cole pulled her aside. "It's done. Really done. Crowley's going to prison. My name is cleared. We're free." "We're free," she repeated, testing the words. They felt strange. She'd spent so long fighting, surviving, planning the next move. Freedom felt foreign. "So what now?" Cole asked. "Now we go home." They rode into Abilene 2 days later. The town turned out to greet them, people lining the street. Some cheered, some just stared. But no one looked away. No one pretended not to see them. The bank stood just as she left it, the sign still reading Prescott Bank in her father's careful lettering. Caroline dismounted and stood looking at it, emotion welling up. "He built something good here," Cole said quietly. "Something worth fighting for. We'll make it better. Together." The next weeks were a blur of activity. Caroline reopened the bank officially, with Cole beside her as partner and head of security. They hired staff, reviewed accounts, made it clear that Prescott Bank was back in business and better than ever. The town slowly came around. At first, some people were wary of Cole. An ex-outlaw running part of the bank seemed scandalous, but he proved himself through steady work and unshakable integrity. And when Old Man Patterson's ranch was threatened by another corrupt banker from a neighboring town, Cole rode out with Caroline to help negotiate fair terms and protect the old man's land. Word spread. The outlaw who'd become a hero, the banker's daughter who'd stood up to evil and won. One evening in late February, as they closed the bank for the day, Cole turned to Caroline with an unusual nervousness in his expression. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing's wrong. He cleared his throat. "I've been thinking. That's always dangerous." He smiled, but didn't laugh. "We've been through hell together, built something real. And I know we've talked about the future, but we've never made it official." Her heart started to pound. "Cole, I'm not good with words. Never have been. But I need you to know that you're everything to me. You're home. You're the reason I get up in the morning, and the reason I can sleep at night. You made me believe I could be more than just a man running from his past." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple gold band. "This was my mother's. The only thing I have left from my family. And I'd like you to have it, if you'll marry me." Tears blurred her vision. "Yes. Yes. Of course, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed her, deep and slow, right there in the bank where they'd first met, where he'd offered to protect her, and she'd taken a chance on a wanted man who kept his promises. "I love you," she whispered against his lips. "I love you too. Always will." They were married a week later in a simple ceremony at the church. Thomas and Martha came all the way from Colorado to stand as witnesses. Half the town showed up, including Old Man Patterson and the ranch wives who'd been her father's friends. As Caroline stood beside Cole, promising to love and honor him for the rest of her days, she felt her father's presence like a warm hand on her shoulder. This was right. This was what he would have wanted for her. Not just safety or security, but real love. Partnership. A man who saw her strength and celebrated it, instead of trying to diminish it. The party afterward was held in the church hall. People brought food and well wishes. Someone played fiddle. And as the evening wore on and Caroline danced with her husband, she felt joy settle into her bones. Real, deep, lasting joy. Later that night, they walked home together under a sky full of stars. The bank stood dark and quiet, but above it, light glowed in the windows of their apartment. They're home now. Together. "Thank you," Cole said as they climbed the stairs. "For what?" "For seeing past the wanted poster. For trusting me when you had every reason not to. For being brave enough to fight beside me. Thank you for keeping your promise to my father. For protecting me. For loving me exactly as I am." Inside, The apartment was warm from the fire she'd laid that morning. Their belongings mingled together now. His coat hung beside hers, his books mixed with hers on the shelf. Evidence of two lives becoming one. Cole pulled her close, and she rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Steady. Strong. Home. I used to think happiness was something other people got to have, she said quietly. After my father died, I thought I'd never feel anything but grief and anger again. And now I know better. Happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build, something you fight for, something you choose, even when the world tries to take it away. He tilted her chin up, his blue-gray eyes full of love and promise. Then let's choose it. Every day. For the rest of our lives. Deal. He kissed her then, and she kissed him back, pouring everything she felt into the touch. Gratitude. Love. Hope. And the absolute certainty that this man, this partnership, this life they were building together was worth every risk, every fight, every terrifying moment that had brought them here. Outside, snow began to fall softly on Abilene. Inside, by the fire's warm glow, Caroline and Cole stood wrapped in each other's arms, two people who'd found home in the most unexpected place. In each other. The weeks that followed were the happiest of Caroline's life. She and Cole fell into an easy rhythm, working side by side in the bank during the day and coming home to each other at night. They were partners in every sense of the word, making decisions together, building their future together. Spring arrived early that year, melting the last of the winter snow and bringing new life to the prairie. The bank flourished under their joint leadership. People trusted them, respected them. And slowly, the story of the outlaw and the banker's daughter became legend in Abilene. One warm April evening, they sat together on the small porch outside their apartment, watching the sun set over the town. Caroline leaned against Cole's shoulder, his arm around her waist, and felt peace settle over her like a blanket. "My father would have liked you," she said suddenly. "I wish you could have known him better." "I wish that too. But I got to know him through his daughter. And that's almost as good." She smiled. "He taught me everything I know about banking. About honesty. About standing up for what's right, even when it costs you. He taught you well. And you taught me something too." "What's that?" "That it's okay to let someone else be strong for you sometimes. That asking for help isn't weakness. That partnership means carrying the load together, not alone." Cole pressed a kiss to her temple. "We make a good team. The best." As darkness fell and stars emerged one by one, they stayed there together, content in the quiet and in each other's presence. No more running. No more danger. Just two people who'd fought their way through hell and come out the other side stronger, wiser, and deeply in love. Inside the bank below them, the ledgers showed steady growth. Outside, the town of Abilene slept peacefully. And in that small apartment above Prescott Bank, Caroline and Cole Garrett began the next chapter of their story. Together. Always together. She inherited a bank and a murder mystery. The outlaw she hired became her only hope.